Okay, so we're going to talk about now analyzing these exponential functions. Specifically, we're going to be given a table, a graph, an equation, and the idea is for you to come up with as many facts about the function as you possibly can. Each fact, you need to number it and then give a justification in this exercise here. So one of the things that I recommend that you do before I turn you loose and have you guys try and figure out as many things as possible is to address every component of the equation. Specifically, try to identify what's going on with the A, the B, the reflections, the movement, anything related to the equation, and then anything else you notice about the table. You always, with functions, want to also address domain and range. Anything that you can determine, you want to try and think about. So go ahead and try and think of as many different things as you can, and then we'll watch the video and see how many that you are correctly able to identify on your own. Okay, so let's see if you were able to come up with as many of these as possible. Number one, and not in any particular order either, we should be able to conclude that this is a decay function. Because as the x values increase, the y values decrease. And it's at an increasing rate simply because you can tell that the y values are getting to be very large over a period of changes in x values. All right, number two, the other thing that you can conclude is that y equals -1 is the horizontal asymptote, and you have to give a reason, and that's because, and then you can identify the left end behavior on that. And one of the third thing is that since you know that the horizontal asymptote is -1, that means C would have to equal -1. Let's see if you can determine that A is negative because all of the values of the function are below the horizontal asymptote, which means that h of x is less than 1. Let's see if you can determine maybe the b value. What do we know? It says since a is less than 0, there's an x-axis reflection. There's also an y-axis reflection because the form that they gave us already included a y-axis reflection. So we can conclude that there's 2 of those reflections. Since we know it's decay with 2 reflections, then B needs to be between 0 and 1. All right, so let's actually see if we can take some points from the table and actually calculate what the equation of the function is going to be. And again, this is just coming up with the a value of the function, and now we can come up with the b value of the function. Okay. Then we can also determine domain and range. Okay, we know that domain is all real numbers, and that's all exponential functions have the domain. Then we could talk about the range. Well, the range is going to be from -infinity to -1 because the graph is below the horizontal asymptote. And so if you got to this point, that would be great. Just real quickly, if you were to kind of sketch a graph here, we know that it's decreasing at a decreasing rate. No, sorry here, decreasing at an increasing rate. Okay, so the graph is going to look like that. And if we were to bring in concavity, remember concave up looks like a cup. So this part is concave up, decreasing decreasing, concave up. This part is increasing, concave up. This part is increasing, concave down. And this is decreasing, concave down. So just bringing in some prior ideas, this entire piece is concave down. So the graph is concave down because the y values are decreasing at an increasing rate. Okay. So let's take a look at this part right here where you're given a graph. You're given a graph and the general form is here. So tell me as many things as you can. Let's see if you were able to identify that the C value is 3, and that's the horizontal asymptote. Let's see if you were able to see that the A value is negative because it's below. Since A is less than 0, and there's been an x-axis reflection, but not a y-axis, because in this form, there was no given reflection. So basically, there's only been one reflection. Since it's growth with one reflection, then that means that my B value, well, here they're telling you it's growth, right? Because it's increasing from left to right. But let's take a look at our B value. We know it's growth, and there's been one reflection, then that means B is in between 0 and 1. We can at some point try to figure out what our A value is. We can also figure out what our B value is. Okay. So hopefully you were able to make those, at least those inferences. All right. Okay, and this would be, if I were to look at this, this is concave down, but increasing. Okay, so still concave. It's an increasing, but concave down. Anyway, here let's go on to g of x given this equation. Let's see how many of these things you were able to identify based on the equation. So you can go through and make sure you have all of these written down. Make sure to address any questions that you have. Make sure you're able to come up with as many of these, and hopefully it's getting a little bit easier with that. All right, now let's take a look at this table and see if you can figure out or answer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay, make sure that you're paying attention to this y-axis reflection on this form. Okay, all right, here we go. Here's number 1. Here's 2. Here's 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All right, please make sure to address any questions that you have.